Hey there, innovation champions. Melissa Dinwiddie here. Back in 2010, I hit a creative wall that felt insurmountable. After 15 years as a professional artist, I was burned out. I was creatively blocked and I was completely stuck. And the irony was not lost on me. I had built my entire career around creativity, and yet I could not create anything for myself anymore. The joy that had originally drawn me to art had been totally buried under client demands and perfectionism and the pressure to monetize every brushstroke. I was basically trapped in my own success. uh, Sound familiar? Well, this pattern plays out in organizations all the time. What starts out as genuine innovation enthusiasm often kind of calcifies into rigid processes and metrics-driven thinking and a culture where risk-taking feels dangerous rather than exciting. But here's what I discovered during this very difficult period. Sustainable innovation isn't about constantly pushing for the next breakthrough. It is about building frameworks that naturally foster creativity over and over again. My journey back to creative joy started with a very simple realization, and that was that I needed to think like a 4-year-old again. I have a nephew, my brother's son, and when he was small, I noticed something really fascinating about how he approached creativity. If you watch any little kids playing, you will see the same thing. He did not worry about whether his drawings were good enough. He didn't strategize about his Lego constructions. He simply played with total absorption and delight. And so I created a set of rules that I designed to put me back into that 4-year-old mindset. Now, I have to clarify that these were not restrictive rules. They were really liberating guardrails that gave me permission to create without judgment. And at first, way back in 2010, 2011, I had just a handful of these guidelines. There is no wrong. Think process, not product. Just start anywhere. Those were among my, if you go back in the blog far enough, you could find the initial blog post that I made with the original little rules that I made for myself. Well, what happened was, to my amazement, that these simple principles really worked. And I started creating again, not just for clients and not for money and not for external validation at all, but just for the pure joy of it. And I started sharing my creations on Instagram. I created a daily newsletter kind of to give myself accountability. And gradually, my mood shifted from cranky and depressed, which is how I had been feeling because I was not creating, to really happy and energized. And what I didn't realize at the time was that I was actually developing a framework, a sustainable system for accessing creativity that would eventually help thousands of others to unlock their creative potential too. Now, over time, my handful of little rules expanded into 10 guideposts that became the backbone of my book, The Creative Sandbox Way. And those guideposts, in turn, informed the 3 core steps of what I now call my Create the Impossible framework. Let's see if I can point the right direction. There we go. So let's go through these steps one by one. They are: 1, play hard; 2, make crap; and 3, learn fast. And this is a continuous cycle. It leads to breakthroughs and innovations. And what makes this framework Sustainable isn't just that it works. It's that it works repeatedly across different contexts, and it continues to generate results over time. And that's the key insight that I want to share with you today. Truly sustainable innovation, excuse me, doesn't come from one-off breakthroughs or isolated moments of genius. It comes from building frameworks that consistently create the conditions for creativity to flourish. So here's the paradox of sustainable innovation. It requires both structure and freedom. Too much structure and creativity gets stifled. Too much freedom and it dissipates without any impact. The most effective innovation frameworks find this delicate balance, providing enough structure to guide the process while leaving enough open space for the unexpected to emerge. And that is exactly why what my Create the Impossible framework does. And so let me show you how each element supports sustainable innovation. Let's start with play hard. So this element creates the conditions for divergent thinking and exploration. By approaching challenges with curiosity rather than pressure, we open up possibilities that just wouldn't emerge from conventional problem solving. For teams stuck on complex problems, I recommend starting with seemingly unrelated play activities. Sometimes teams will, or managers might push back on this, but I highly recommend starting with play. So consider using an improv game. Like one that works really well is Fortunately, Unfortunately, where each person builds on the previous statement with an alternating fortunate or unfortunate development. This sort of playful detour can really loosen up thinking patterns and create connections that more analytical approaches might otherwise miss. Because remember, play is not a distraction from work, it's a catalyst for innovation, especially when conventional approaches have hit a wall. So that is step one, play hard. Step two, make crap. This element creates psychological safety for experimentation and iteration. By giving ourselves permission to create those imperfect first attempts, we overcome the paralysis of perfectionism. So for organizations that are struggling with a culture of perfectionism, and I know you are out there because I work with you, I recommend implementing a crappy first drafts practice. So set aside dedicated time where team members intentionally share work that is unpolished and incomplete, and make it explicit that the goal is not perfection, but exploration. Now, the beauty of this approach is that it not only generates more ideas, but often also more diverse ideas, because people feel safer sharing unconventional thinking when perfectionism is not the standard. So that's make crap. And now we come to the third step in the framework, learn fast. Now, this element transforms failures into learning opportunities. By approaching setbacks with curiosity rather than judgment, we create this continuous improvement cycle. Now, I strongly recommend implementing regular learning reviews after project milestones, not just at project completion. Now, these should not be blame sessions, but really genuine explorations of what's working, what isn't working, and what adjustments might yield better results. And when you're looking at these reviews, consider structuring them around 3 simple questions. What went well that we want to continue? What didn't work as expected and why? And what will we try differently next time? This approach can really accelerate innovation cycles and build organizational knowledge that benefits future projects. All right, so how can you apply these insights to create sustainable innovation in your own context? Well, here are 3 strategies that I have found particularly effective. First, create framework rituals. The most sustainable frameworks become embedded in daily or weekly rituals. So, for example, you might want to start team meetings with a 5-minute creative warm-up, or schedule some monthly crappy prototype sessions where everyone brings an intentionally unfinished idea, or implement regular learning reviews that focus on insights rather than outcomes. Of course, you could do all of these things, right? Now, these rituals gradually shift the culture from seeing innovation as some kind of a special event to treating it as a natural part of how work happens. Second, design for adaptability. The most sustainable frameworks just evolve over time. Look at my own Create the Impossible framework. It did not emerge fully formed like Athena from the head of Zeus, right? It grew through experimentation and iteration. So build this adaptability into your own innovation framework by, for example, regularly reviewing which elements are working and which might need adjustment, encouraging team members to suggest modifications based on their own experience, intentionally experimenting with new approaches and incorporating what works. So that is designing for adaptability. And then third, connect to purpose. Sustainable innovation frameworks, they're not just about process, they're about purpose. And when people understand why these approaches matter, they're a lot more likely to embrace them even when challenges arise. My own framework, for example, emerged from a deeply personal need to reconnect with my creative joy. Now, in organizations, it's going to be different, of course. Connecting innovation frameworks to meaningful purpose, whether that's customer impact or team well-being or broader mission, whatever it is, it's going to create an emotional investment. And that sustains the practice over time. So what I've learned through my own journey is that a sustainable innovation creates this kind of virtuous cycle. The frameworks that we build today shape the innovations of tomorrow, which in turn inform how our frameworks evolve. And like all complex systems, these cycles are going to have their natural ebbs and flows. There's going to be periods of extraordinary creativity, followed by times of consolidation and integration, which might feel sort of like a drought. But the key is not to fight these natural rhythms, but to work with them. To recognize when it's time to play hard and when it's time to make crap and when it's time to learn fast. So, as you think about innovation in your own context, I encourage you to look beyond the immediate breakthrough to the sustainable systems that are going to generate creativity for years to come. And think about building frameworks that balance structure and freedom, that are going to become embedded in your culture and that connect to meaningful purpose. Because true innovation isn't just about what you create today, it's about creating the conditions where innovation can continually renew itself, bringing fresh energy and fresh ideas, even when the initial excitement has faded. Ready to build sustainable innovation frameworks that stand the test of time? Click the link in the description to book a complimentary innovation strategy session, and let's explore how the Create the Impossible framework can help you develop sustainable innovation systems that consistently generate creativity in your organization. If you found these insights about building lasting innovation frameworks valuable, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of innovation champions. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a new strategy for driving creativity and innovation in your organization. And I would love to know your thoughts on this topic. What is one simple ritual or practice that helps you sustain your creativity over time? Is it a daily sketching habit, a weekly brainstorming session, or I don't know, something else entirely? Share your insights in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay playful, and keep creating the impossible. See you next time. Ciao.